Now, the First Minister has warned that democratic systems across the world are under pressure, and Scotland is not immune to these threats. On Wednesday, he'll host a summit with civic and political leaders to protect and strengthen the democratic values which he says underpin who we are as Scots, and to unite Scotland against the increasingly extreme far right. And Mr. Swinney joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Graham.
Now, you've talked a lot about working together to protect and strengthen democratic values. They're very warm words, but can you just give us an idea of what that might mean in practice, the kind of conclusions or ideas that you might agree to this week?
I don't want to prejudge the outcome of the gathering that we will have on Wednesday, which is being supported by a very wide range of political, faith and civic society groups within Scotland, and I really welcome the engagement that has taken place around about the gathering on Wednesday. And the purpose of it is to recognise the fact that we are facing significant challenges to our democratic system at this time. There are huge challenges around democratic participation and engagement, around the accuracy and reliability of information that circulates in the public domain. And I think what is important that we all recognise, and I think it's at the heart of the gathering that we have on Wednesday, is the steps that we've all got to take to protect the democratic systems that have served us so well over so many years. And if we're passive about this, then we run the risk that those democratic systems will be eroded by the challenges that we face.
Reform UK are a democratic party, but you've not invited them. That's pretty undemocratic, isn't it?
What I've done is I've extended an invitation to all parliamentary parties, which I think is the right thing to do at this moment, because it's important that all parliamentary parties are invited and that also we extend that invitation to a wide range of civic organisations, because I think...
Why not reform?
The threat that's coming to our democratic system is coming from a range of pressures that seek to undermine some of the central values of our society.
Are reform doing that?
I think there's parts of the argument and the rhetoric of reform that contribute to that. But what I'm interested in doing is bringing together the widest possible cross-section of opinion to reaffirm support for our democratic system and our values within Scotland.
Specifically, what is it about reform that you believe is undermining democracy?
Well, what I'm interested in doing, Graham, is about bringing people together around a set of shared values, which I think have served Scotland really well. If I look back over the 25 years of the Scottish Parliament, there has been a relentless focus across all political parties on ensuring that Scotland was an inclusive country, that Scotland was a welcoming country, that we brought communities together, that we sought ways of building cohesion within our communities. Now, I see rhetoric within our society today which is challenging that. And I think it's important that as broad a range of organisations as possible come together to make sure that we cement that we anchor that within Scottish society, and that Scottish society benefits from that as much in the future as it has in the past.
But you've referred to reform as far right and racist. What is it that makes them racist in your view?
I think the attitude and the approach that's taken in relation to immigration causes me enormous concern about the approach and the attitude of reform.
Is it wrong to be anti-immigration?
I think what we need to recognise in our society today, and again it comes back to the answer I've just given you, about the importance of bringing people together in cohesive communities, which has been the prevailing attitude of society in Scotland over the last, for all of my life, to be honest.
It's changing though, isn't it? I mean, the Charity Migration Policy Scotland said that 42% of Scots prefer a reduction in the level of immigration. That was a big change from the previous year. I mean, it is the case that in Scotland, growing numbers of people are sceptical, and right throughout Europe, we're seeing parties struggle with the issue of immigration. So what's wrong with Reform UK suggesting policies to tackle that?
Well, I think there's a positive argument to be made for migration, because in every sector of the economy that I discuss, we are short of people. So there is a positive argument for migration to come to Scotland, and there's a positive argument to build cohesive communities as a consequence of migration. Now, that's been a central foundation of political debate in Scotland for many years, and it addresses the economic realities that we face in our country today. Now, I want to make sure that we have that we draw together the opinion that can support and enhance and endorse the approach to creating cohesive communities by bringing people together. And that's the sentiment that lies at the heart of the gathering on Wednesday. And what I'm determined to make sure is the case, that we bring people together into cohesive communities.
Yeah, you talk about bringing people together, and you talk about protecting the democratic values which underpin who we are as Scots. But when you have polls suggesting that nearly a fifth of people in Scotland might back reform, surely their values represent who we are as Scots as much as any other small party.
Well, I think there's an important debate here about what are the values of our society, and I want to lead that debate, and I want to persuade people in Scotland that the values that have created the type of cohesive Scotland and the tolerant country that we live in today is one that should be maintained and asserted in the years to come.
Should you just do that at the ballot box rather than holding a summit which seeks to exclude a particular party?
Well, there will, of course, be opportunities at the ballot box to do that, and people can choose as to who they want to support. But I think there's a wider question here, which is about who we are as a society and how we want to bring people together in our society. And that's what's driven my tenure as First Minister, the desire to bring people together in Scotland to create a cohesive society and to make sure that our communities are strong, that they are tolerant, that they are inclusive. Now, those are values that I think are fundamental to Scotland today, that have served us well in the past and that will serve us well in the future.
But isn't it the
case is what's been made for those, Graham.
But isn't it the case that the rise in support, the apparent rise in support, and indeed the actual rise in support, you look at council elections for reform, reflects the fact that a lot of voters are simply fed up with the record of two governments, the SNP Scottish Government and the Labour UK Government? Why shouldn't people register their disillusionment by voting for an alternative?
Well, I recognise that people are disaffected in society because people have gone through a really hard time over a number of years. I set out in a speech earlier on this year the challenges that we faced between austerity, COVID, the invasion of Ukraine, the inflation spike, and the consequent erosion of people's standard of living. So I understand entirely why people feel as if they are going through a very challenging period at this time. That's what my government is focused on addressing.
Isn't there a danger, though, that when you attack reform, you're attacking a lot of voters in Scotland, and by implication, you're saying that they're racist?
Well, I'm reaching out to people in Scotland to say that they shouldn't be tempted by the simple solutions that are offered by the ideologies that are represented by Reform and others. What I'm saying is that there is a way for us to strengthen the economic opportunity, the jobs available to people in Scotland, to take the measures to eradicate child poverty, which lie at the heart of my government's agenda, to improve the National Health Service so that it delivers for people in Scotland. All of that can be achieved, and it can be achieved within communities that come together working towards shared values, and that will underpin the discussion and the dialogue that we have at the gathering on Wednesday.